Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's do a complete beginner's guide for Lies of P, shall we? This is a Souls-like game that's very much like Bloodborne, but with its own idiosyncrasies that we're going to talk about here in this guide. These games are traditionally quite difficult in the Souls genre, but I feel like Lies of P is more accessible in a lot of ways than traditional Souls games, and we'll get into that. So what we're going to do in this guide is just start up a brand new game, and I'm going to explain everything organically as we proceed so that you can play along if you like and you just got the game, you want to try it out, or if you're just seeing if it's the kind of game you're interested in, you can see the game from the beginning. And I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to tell you the fastest way to level, the best build, or anything in that vein. What I'm going to do is just explain very simply the controls to the game, the UI, some basic tips and tricks to survive in games like this, and how this game differs from Souls if you're coming from Bloodborne, Elden Ring, or any of the Souls games, and help you so that you can get a foothold and start surviving and making progress in the game, because it really is an interesting and fun game, but there's some stuff you have to kind of clear through at the beginning portion to get stabilized and get in a position where you can level up and stuff. So let's dive in. I'm going to start a new game here. In honor of the great writer Carlo Collodi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Geppetto's puppet. We need your help.
All right. We are Geppetto's puppet, and we have a poofy shirt and a robot arm, and we're ready to rock. So immediately they want to tell us the movement controls, and let's just talk about that. So I am playing on PC using Xbox Game Pass. The game is free on Game Pass, by the way, and I'm using a controller, an Xbox controller, to play. You move with the left stick, and you move the camera with the right stick. Let's talk about what we see on the screen. In the upper left, that is a red bar and a green bar with 3 empty bars beneath it. The red bar is my health, the green bar is my stamina, and the blue bar we will talk about. It's our Fable meter as it becomes important. In the upper right, we have our ergo counter, which is a de facto Souls counter. It is the currency that you use in the game to level up and to buy things. It's pretty much the main currency. Then in the lower left, we have some information about what we have equipped as items to use. So if I push up on the directional pad, I will select an item to use with the X button. And right now that would be healing, but I don't have that. And if I go down, I have like a kind of a grindstone to repair my weapon's durability. Now, it's very important to note that whatever item that you have selected in red by pushing up or down on the D-pad will be what you use when you push X. So there's sometimes in the game where I will push X thinking I'm going to heal, and instead I'm using whatever's equipped with the down arrow. So just make sure you're on the right thing. Then in the lower left, you'll see that it says if I use the left trigger, I use my left arm of steel, which looks like that. It's I punch people with my metal arm. Now you'll notice that that has a kind of brown bar beneath it, which is the energy or durability of the arm. And once that runs out, you won't be able to use it. So it's a limited use thing, but you can replenish it. Then in the bottom right, I have information about what weapon I have equipped, the handle and the blade, but I don't have anything right now because I'm in this, kind of what appears to be a very fancy Victorian train car.
Ah, there you are. I've been looking all over for you.
Okay, great. So someone's been looking for me. They need my help. And we can push the A button to interact with the environment. When we get to something that we can, it'll display in the bottom center of the heads-up display or HUD the interaction, the contextual button, and it's investigate with A.
I see they got Jiminy too. But we have to hurry. My name is Sophia. Please come to Hotel Krot, and I'll explain what's happening.
Okay.
Jiminy, please escort him to the hotel.
Thanks, Gemini. All right, so they are explaining about using our belt and how to equip items to the belt. We just talked about how you push up or down to select what's on your upper or lower belt, and then X to use the item, and you can equip items from your inventory to change what's on your belt. You can also, similar to Elden Ring, you have an extra bag. So if you hold down A, this screen will pop up that displays what you can use by pushing up, down, left, or right on the D-pad while holding A and opening your extra bag to give you more quick items that you can access in the game. And we just got Monad's lamp, or Gemini, as it were, and we want to equip this. So you'll notice then on the bottom left where my weapon durability item is, I actually have the lamp, and I can cycle through the items I have equipped on my lower belt by continuing to push down. Similarly, I could do the same thing with the upper belt, but I only have one item. Now that we have the lamp selected, you can see in the lower left, it is selected. This is what we had before, and then if I push down again, it becomes selected. And if I push X, I turn on this lamp that I have attached to the back of my belt and is dangling down behind me, and it illuminates the area. It's extremely useful. So this is a game that is cryptic and mystical, and if you've played a Souls-like, just about everything in this game feels very natural to you. It looks right. The game gives me vibes of, like, there's some Resident Evil going on, like Code Veronica in this train, but just the Victorian kind of high-tech setting gives you that. You get, of course, the Bloodborne vibes with the aesthetic, and you get all the Souls that goes along with that. So that's pretty fun, but if I push start, I can open up the menu. And from the menu, you'll see that I have some options. So in the upper left, I currently have the equipment selected, and you can use left and right on the directional pad to change what you have selected. Now note that when you open this menu, the game is not paused. Like, you see how I can walk around with my character and the game is still going. So you can't, like, cycle through your bag and be protected from enemies. So just make note of that. You can just straight up pause the game, of course, but you can't do this. So in the equipment screen, I'm going to go down, and if I push down on the directional pad, I'll get to my upper belt, and you can see I have 3 slots I can equip items in. I have my pulse cell, which is basically like your Estus flask. It's your item that you use to restore your health and has a limited number of charges that you restore between campfires or rest sites. And then it's called something else. We'll get to that in a moment in this game. But in the lower belt, I have 2 items, the lamp and the grinder. And then in the extra bag, I have my last resort, which is you can use this to just die if you want to go back to the Sears area. So I'm going to go up, and I've got my bag if I select that. So you can push A to select your backpack from the pause menu, and it goes into this screen, which again, aesthetically very much is like a Souls game. And you can see I've got my pulse cell here, and you get a big description of what each item is. So although the game is mystical, there is in-game documentation that is quite helpful and robust for you to look at that, in my experience, explain pretty much everything that something does, but we'll cover when that isn't the case. And you can see in the upper right, I've got my ergo, but I also have a weight indicator. So this is basically telling me that I'm carrying 33% of my encumbrance, or my maximum carry weight, which scales based on a stat that we'll talk about as we can level. But you are kind of gated by how much weight you're carrying. It's not usually from the items that you're carrying, but from your equipment, your weapons and your de facto armor. You could cycle through the different tabs by using the right and left bumper, R1 and L1, but right now we don't have that much to look at. I'm going to push B to go back. Then you can look at your character info by pushing A on this, and it tells you some incredibly broken down, transparent information about everything involving your character's stats, how much damage you're going to do, how much damage you can mitigate, your hit points, your stamina, your legion, which we'll talk about, your fable, and your guard regain, which is a cool ability that we get. At the top right of the character screen, you will see not only the ergo and the weight, but how much ergo it requires to level up. And this is always important, so you know like how much you need to go back to the rest site and kind of level yourself up so that you don't waste. And we'll look at that. But it's really nice that the game just tells you that straight out, and it breaks down all of your stats and like what they're doing and how much damage you can expect to do with your loadout. You can go to your settings and change all kinds of things here as well if you want. And I think that's pretty good. Oh, by the way, if you actually push A on the equipment. So right now I just went to the equipment, which is the default, and went down here to the belt. But if you push equipment, this is how you change your weapons, your Legion arm, which is right here. So the Legion that we saw on the status screen is how much energy you basically have for whichever Legion arm you have equipped. And then we have amulets and defensive parts. Right now we have very, very little. You also have your usable items, which we can get to from the previous screen. And then you have like a cosmetic costume screen for your hat and outfit. So let's keep walking now that I've explained the menu and such, and go through here. And
let's get you out of there. Find something that might help.
Okay, let's find something. So we've got a disembodied voice talking to us. And it's a woman who wants us to go to the Hotel Crot, and we have a disembodied lamp voice too. So lots of guidance and lots of blades.
But the streets are not safe. Arm yourself with one of the weapons over there.
Okay.
It'll be helpful on your way to the hotel.
So at this point, you get to choose which combat style you want in the game. You can go Path of the Cricket, Path of the Bastard, and Path of the Sweeper. Cricket is like in between, balanced. Bastard is dexterity. You have like a fencing kind of style foil, and you're all about hitting critical spots, being dexterous. And the Sweeper is like you have a big weapon that's nice and slow and does a bunch of damage. I recommend, if you're a new player, starting with the Path of the Cricket, because I find it to be quite useful. It's really intuitive, but pick whichever you want. And know that once you get to a certain point in the game, which is not very far along, you can just get all of these, and you will be able to switch in the game by changing your grip and your blade. So you can adjust your style with new weapons and such. So I'm going to start out with balance because I think it's just ideal for learning the game. But if you want to go for a more quicking, like, you know, dodging and critical hit style, or a slower, two-handed weapon kind of style, that's up to you. By the way, I'm going to go back. I'm going to say you can push Y to switch display. And this kind of tells you that if you start like this, it will give you these status attributes. So it's going to change your stats. So it does, you can change between these different starting builds by switching your weapon, but you will get different distribution of stats based on what you choose. So you can see, these are more min-maxed. Like Cricket is, everything is, between 7 and 9. Whereas, these two here have some stuff that goes all the way down to 5 and maybe as high as 12. These are pretty inconsequential, in my opinion, in terms of stats, because when you level, you can start raising these up to whatever you want. It just depends. I'm still going to go with Cricket, but I recommend you look at this to make your decision. Yes, I choose this.
Hotel Crot. Recommend escaping from this location.
Okay, so the lamp is now talking to us, and Gemini says, escape. Now you'll see in the upper right, there's a new display, which is the controls. And this kind of remains on the game for a while. And you can push, obviously, start or options to go to the menu. Left bumper guards. B jumps backward, dodges in, like you can push a direction to roll, or you could push B to jump back. You can hold B to run, but notice that anything you're doing with the B button in the upper left, it's draining your stamina. So you can only do this for as much stamina as you have. You push in R3 or the right analog stick to lock on. You hold A for your extra bag, and you can actually switch what weapon you're using by using right on the directional pad, or switch your arm that you have equipped by pushing left on the directional pad, but we only have one of each, so it's not doing anything when we try to switch right now. There is also, some puppet parts if you want to build yourself a friend. I'm just kidding. And let's go ahead and open the door. All right. So as she said, the streets are not safe. We're going out. And oh my god, the horror. This is a dark game. The puppets have turned on the people, and you're going to find dead people all over the place. You don't really need to worry too much right now, anyway, about human beings. You're worried about dangerous puppets, and you'll know what the puppets look like. We are a puppet, but we're like made by the master puppet maker Geppetto, so we look like a person. The other puppets look clunky, like nutcrackers, like automatons, like, Chuck E. Cheese carnival decorations. Now, it's telling us that we can use R3 to lock on, and you see this puppet that's ambling toward us in the rainy train station. This guy is coming at us. Now, I'm going to tell you that, unlike a Souls game, in this game, I've pushed R3 to lock onto this guy. You can see above him he has his health bar in red. And I've got my sword. I can slash my sword with R1, which is a fast attack, or I can do like a heavy attack with R2. And I'm going to do my normal attack 3 in a row right to that guy. And the reason I do them very rapidly is because it is incredibly important to note that your attacks, even your normal attacks, stagger basic enemies. It does not work on like bigger enemies, mini bosses, or boss enemies most of the time, but for regular trash mobs, you can just walk up to them and slash them down rapidly, and they will be interrupted. And it's super helpful because in Dark Souls and stuff, like even a basic enemy, if you don't get the timing right, they're going to get you. You got to learn it. But it's a little bit, that's why I'm saying it's more approachable in some ways because of that. Now, you notice we got a bunch of oil all over ourselves from this, like, train conductor bad guy. And when he died, we got 47 ergo, which you saw kind of the blue light come out. And in the upper right, you see we have 47. So that's the currency we need. Now, what you want to do is push R3 a bunch when you're moving around to see what you can target. Because this puppet looks like it's down and out. But, oh, it's not. Now, it told us to use the Legion arm with left trigger, which I did. I punched that guy. And the punch does a lot of damage. It's very good, but you have to be really close. Okay, another disembodied voice. All right, thanks. Yeah, Krat's my final destination, and I don't think safe or prosperous is going to be... I mean, hopefully prosperous, but there's blood everywhere. This ain't safe. So when you see a blue sparkly like this, go check it out, and when you get close, you see in the bottom center of the heads-up display, it says push A to obtain it, and we got a sawtooth wheel. What's a sawtooth wheel, you might ask? It's a bunch of garbage, but I'll show you what it is. I don't personally like these things. I'm going to go into my equipment, and I'm going to go to usable items, and I'm going to go to my belt. I'm switching between the tabs, by the way, using the bumpers, right and left bumper. And on my extra bag right here, I'm just going to select it, and then I'm going to go to throwing objects and select the sawtooth wheel. The sawtooth wheel is just this little thing you can throw at an enemy to get their attention. So you can use it to like pull the enemy out towards you if there's a pack of them and you only want to fight one or whatever. It does hardly any damage at all. So I don't find myself using these, but I bet strategically you can to your advantage. And so experiment if that's your play style. I don't personally use them, but I'm going to show you how to use them. Now also you'll notice if I go into the equipment screen in the upper right, I'm actually 47% burdened at this point. My carry went way up because I picked up this weapon. So I'm about 50% of what I can actually carry. I have 94 ergo. And if I go to my character info, you can see that, I require 720 to level up. But we can't even do that right now, so let's not worry. Now, some of these environment items you can break, but a lot of it's just the boundary, and you can't. So you'll get a discerning eye for what of these items are something you can smash. All right? Right away, run up and collect this item because we got the pulse cell. The pulse cell is vital. This is how you recover your health. So it's on the upper belt, and we had it, and it's empty. But now we can use this. There's a max number of times pulse cells can be used. Right now it's 3. So we have 3 charges until we rest and restore them. When you reach the maximum, it'll be discharged. So once you've used it, it empties out. But what's great, and this is unique to this game, is you go to 0 charges, but you can fight enemies and attack them and then charge it back up to get an extra heal. So it's really, really nice, and you need to kind of pay attention to this to take advantage of the fact that you can replenish your charges in this fashion. And we'll talk about that as it becomes important. So this guy with the stop sign is walking around, and you can just kind of circle around to fight him, but notice how he has a buddy over there. There's actually another dude, and you can, once you have targeted, you can push right and left on the right analog stick to select between different dudes. This guy's now seen us, and he's aware, and he's going to come at us, and I'm just going to start slashing him. Even though I missed right there, oh, he had a little bit of juice left. Usually 3 strikes, good strikes will do. He became aware of us and pulled over without alerting that enemy. That would be a situation where maybe throwing the sawtooth wheel would be good. But you see there's a guy here, and there's a guy here. So you really want to just be very, very observant and try to pick out dudes that might fight you that look like they're down, because they're not. If you can target them with R3, they have health and they will stand up and fight you when you get close. And the game loves to surprise you. It'll put a treasure out and be like, hey, go get the treasure. And you walk over and drop your guard for a moment, and then the dude just jumps out. So you really want to be on your guard. I'm going to hold A to open up my extra bag, and I'm going to push up to just throw my sawtooth wheel. So on this basic dude, it wakes him up, it'll pull him toward us, and it did an okay amount of damage, but it's not really anything of consequence. Still, 3 good strikes is enough to just end that guy. And I didn't need to throw that. I did that purely for demonstration purposes. There's a nice blood trail there. Let's go over and talk to this guy. Now, for this dude, what I did was I held R2 right there to do this powered up charge attack. And you actually get 2 spins out of it. You could push R2 once to just get this kind of attack, or you can, like, spin attack like that if you hold it in longer. Now, he dropped an item, so make sure to pick this up. We got another Fable Catalyst, and we got a Dim Ergo Fragment. So let's talk about both of these items. If I go into my equipment, actually, let's go into my bag. That's the easiest way to look at it. If I go into the bag, you see all your items that you've picked up. And this is a great way to check through everything. It could be a quest item. It could be anything. You can find it here. I got 2 Fable Catalysts. You use these to restore the rectangular charges beneath your health and stamina in the upper left. And this is for basically, think of it like your magic points or your special move points. That's what the Fable is. And we also got an Ergo Fragment. This, if I use it, gives me 100 Ergo. But unlike the Ergo that I have normally stored, the traditional mechanic in Souls games, if you've never played it before, is if I die, all 235 of the ergo that I have, which you can see in the upper right, I will lose. And I have to make it back to where I died to get them back. And if I die again before I get back, I lose all of that ergo. So you really want to be mindful of that. And if you keep it in these fragments, you can save it and use it, because when you die, you don't lose your items. You only use your collected ergo. So don't use this until you need it, okay? Save all of these fragments until you need them. Because if I use it now and I go up to 335 ergo and then I die and I die again, I lose everything. But if I die now, and even if I lost all 235, I'd still have that 100 ergo in that fragment in my inventory to use to spend at a shop or to level myself up. So now we are going to move on in Krat Central Station, and it's worth taking a look. This game has a really cool aesthetic. You can see how far up Krat climbed economically, in architecturally, just in terms of their wealth. Everything was rolling for them when they got ergo and established these puppets, and now it's covered in blood. So when you're exploring at this point, it is worth mentioning, similar to Souls games, if you've never played one, with the exception of Elden Ring, there is no map. So you need to kind of be aware of where you are in the level based on your intuition, and just you'll get a feel for the doorways and the accesses and things like this, which are a shortcut. So if I try to press this button, you see it shocks me. And what this means is I can't open this door from this side. But if I get on the other side, I can open it, and then I have a shortcut back to this point. So a lot of the level design in this game works in that fashion. So keep your eyes out all the time for ladders, doorways, and shortcuts. But also, if you see pillars and poles like this that might obscure enemies, use your targeting button and just move the camera around to see, because the game loves to surprise you with enemies hiding behind doorways. Now, I'm like holding the left bumper to just block, just in case. Oh, and they're going to tell me about it right here. So you can block enemy attacks by guarding. And if your guard is successful, your character will take reduced damage, but it'll consume stamina, which is your green bar. So you can't block forever because you will eventually run out of stamina. And if you run out of stamina, you get like staggered and you're just wide open for an attack. The guard mitigates a certain amount of the damage that you take. And what's great in this game is that the damage that you have reduced will be transferred to guard regain. And this is a kind of bar that is indicated where it's like you'll see your health bar go down, and then at the top of your bar there'll be a kind of darker portion in red that is the health that you could regain if you hit the enemy with attacks. So you have like a window, and that will diminish, by the way. It will not persist forever. You have a window after you block to try to hit a little bit, almost like a vampire, and gain some health back. So it really incentivizes guarding in this game, even if you don't have a shield. Like, in Souls, you usually don't like to guard too much with a weapon because it doesn't block a lot. But a shield blocks for a ton, but it's heavy. But in this game, you could just block with your sword. And if you push the block button exactly at the right time, you get a perfect guard. And if you perfectly guard, you will take no damage. You will consume stamina, however. But it also can stagger the enemy or destroy their weapon. So perfect guarding is like you push left bumper right when they're going to attack, like a parry. And it is amazing if you can get the timing down, and certain enemies really telegraph their moves. Now, they're telling us to use the block because there is an enemy up here. You could see on this stairwell, I've just pushed R3 to target them. This enemy has a gun and is going to shoot us. So whenever you see a ranged enemy like this, what you want to do is target them and okay. All right. So, a lot going on right there. Let me just break down everything that happened. I ran up the stairs to kill the enemy that was shooting at me, even though there was a melee enemy down here. I did that because I could have stood here and fought the guy with the stop sign. But the problem is, this guy would just be standing up here firing on me uninterrupted, and so I needed to take that threat out first. Now, what it meant, however, unfortunately, was that this guy could catch up, and they did hit me where I didn't have quite enough stamina to hit them and stagger them both with my attack, so I took a little damage. You'll see that I got some guard regain because I did block. I gained some health back, but the guy died so fast that I couldn't gain all my health back. That's a bummer, but it's really not the end of the world. I have 3 charges of my heal. Now, I've just pushed up on the directional pad to make sure that my healing is selected. You want to get your pulse cell selected, make sure it's in red, so that when you go to heal by pushing X, you've got it ready. And the reason you need that is, again, I explain everything through the prism of some Souls-likes, but if you've never played one, this heal is not instant. Your character actually has to do an action which kind of makes you vulnerable while you're healing, so you need a few moments to get away from the enemy. It's faster than it is in a lot of Souls games to heal in this game, which is nice, but you still are vulnerable, so you want to kind of like get away from the enemy and wait for when they're not attacking, and you need to get the timing down for when you're able to heal in combat. Outside of combat, heal whenever you like. Now I'm going to hold my guard, because this is a trick. You see right here, around the corner, where it says go, there's that bad guy, he's holding that, and the game is like tricking you, like, hey, come get this treasure. If we ran in there to get the treasure, the blue sparkly that we see, this dude would get a free shot on us. So instead, I'm just going to hold guard, and I'm going to pull this guy out. Well, yeah. Okay. I blocked his first attack. We took no damage. We did take some stamina, but we took no damage, and then I was able to get all of our health back with guard regain. So we just got thermite, which is a kind of a throwing item. It's almost like a Molotov cocktail. It's an exploding fire grenade type thing. And what's going on that I have discovered in this game is they really allow you to block more than you can with many builds in a Souls, and not take punishment for it. So, that being said, this enemy up here is in the spotlight, and we don't need to block against them because they are not aware of us. So we can walk up behind this guy, and it's telling us about like a critical fatal attack that you can do against unaware enemies. So if you get close to this guy, you'll notice how the X is, I have it targeted, but if I get really close, you'll see it turns into that like orange slashes. When the game shows you those orange slashes, you can hold the right bumper to do that attack. Now you could theoretically tap it, but I have found that it doesn't work very well and will sometimes just do a regular attack. So I always hold right bumper to get that crit. That will also appear if you stagger certain enemies. You'll see that kind of like vulnerability appear, and then you can just hack them. Now this guy wants to come hit us. You see how he reaches back to like do an attack, and it's so telegraphed that we can use our normal attack really quickly and take him down before he even lands a hit on us. And let me just kind of look around here. There's an unaware guy over there. There's a item here, which is the passenger's note. If anyone finds this note, get out of the station and run. And you can push start and go into your bag and go over. Just keep going over. And here you go. So in the collectibles, the very last tab, you'll find all of these things if you want to take a look at it. And you could switch to display. And this person says they saw a huge puppet smashing people to death in there, which is a good warning for us that there's like a nightmare boss waiting, a big puppet, bigger than these regular fools that we've been just annihilating. So this guy's standing here, and he is facing the wrong direction, so we get to just one-shot him with the unaware attack. Now this guy's here as well. Now, I killed that guy. Another guy added. I blocked him, got all of our health back with regain. I do want to point out, and this is something that really annoys me about the game, but it's something that Dark Souls has as well, but if you're next to a wall and you try to attack, you see how my attack actually hits the wall, or it hits this? You can be fighting, and if your weapon will hit a wall or some other part of the environment that doesn't break, your attack will kind of get deflected, and you will not stagger the enemy. So if you're counting on, like, I'm going to stagger the enemy, but then you accidentally, like, hit into the wall, you will be in for a rude awakening. So you really want to try and get enemies away from obstacles that your sword could hit. Now, here's another treasure, but I'm going to be very wary and make sure that there's no bad guys, and there isn't. And we get another fragment, which is the saved up ergo that we're going to keep a hold of. Now, down there, that's the puppet that they're talking about. That big, like, police constable-looking puppet that's just smashing stuff in the entry. That's what we need to be aware of. Now, we're going to go down there this way. I'm going to just be very, very mindful, but before I go fight that guy, you see right in front of me that there is a doorway with a red button? They're telling you it's a locked device, and you can unlock it to create shortcuts. Before I go fight that guy, I'm going to open the shortcut. This takes us back where we first got our pulse cell, in the room where I showed you the shortcut on the other side, right here with the statue of that lady. And you want all of these shortcuts open, because if I die on this boss, which is very likely, he killed me the first time I fought him, you will start maybe back here by the train, and you need, instead of having to walk all the way back through, you have a shortcut. Shortcuts are even more important than just saving you time walking, because in these Souls games, if you die and have to walk back through and you're trying to get back to your body to reclaim your ergo or just get back where you were, all of the enemies will respawn. So you're going to have to fight your way back, and it can be really dangerous. But if you get the shortcut open, you can save yourself some time and have less risk when you're trying to reclaim your ergo. Now, this is, right here, a Fable Catalyst. So, before we fight a boss, let's equip ourselves. Let's prepare ourselves. I'm going to go... he's occupied. He's not going to fight us until we get close. I'm going to go into my bag. And I'm just going to go and I'm going to look at some of these usable items. So we've been picking up these Fable Catalysts, which will charge our Fable. We also have this throwing object, the thermite that we got. So I'm going to think about equipping these. I'm going to push back, and I'm going to go to equipment, and I'm going to go to usable items. And on my extra bag, I'm going to equip the Fable Catalyst in one slot, and then this I'm also going to equip... equip that right there. And then I'm going to go to an empty slot on my extra bag, the down button, and put this. By the way, this thing, this makes you die upon use. I'm going to unequip this. I don't ever want to accidentally use that. I personally never use that. It's just not something that I do. So I don't want to be in a fight and hold down A to open my extra bag and be looking to, like, use a consumable and accidentally push the wrong button and kill myself. I'm not really interested in that. So I do have to start this fight at less than full health, which is a shame, but I don't want to use my pulse cell to heal right now because it's a bit of an overheal, and I don't want to waste it. I'm going to need all of it that I can get. So you can see Big Boy over there, and there's really nothing else that we can do. So I'm going to target him and just kind of move a little bit closer. But before I do that, I'm going to hold A, and I'm going to use my Fabled Catalyst, because in the upper left, you see I'm restoring my Fable meter. Now I have 2 bars out of 3. Now in the lower right, where your weapon is, your handle and your blade, you can see that there are some special moves that are unlocked by your weapon based on how many charges of Fable that you have. So currently I can hold down left bumper and push Y and use one of my 3 charges to do a Fable move that will charge up my weapon. But if I have all three, I get a kind of special attack that I can use to do a pretty good amount of damage, but it's a very close range attack. Now, if you want more information on this, go to your equipment and then select your blade, your weapon. And in the right panel, where it has Puppet Saber Blade, you'll see in the bottom right, it says Fable Arts. Storm Slash is 3 charges, Concentrate is 1 charge. And if you push Y to switch to display, it'll kind of explain what these do. So Fable Art for Storm Slash slashes an enemy in front of you, and then Concentrate temporarily increases our attack. So that's very good. Now, I don't know if I want to use any of these right now before I start the fight, because generally with bosses in these games, what I like to do is just fight them a few times. I just know I'm going to die until I learn their attack patterns and how to fight them, so I don't want to waste a whole bunch of consumables on my first attempt because I don't know what I'm doing. I'd rather save my consumables for after I fought it a few times and died and learned the fight so that I can have a higher chance of winning. Because if I just use everything right now and I die, I don't have them when it might matter because I've used them all up. That being said, if you feel really confident and you want to just use them now, go for it. I used one just to kind of demonstrate what it did, but I'll show you the rest in combat. Now, this guy's going to come fight us, and I'm going to block. Okay, so I'm going to heal. I stepped away, healing. I dodged backward to heal. So something you should notice right away about this guy is that he hits for a ton. Blocking is just not going to work because it's too much damage. But the main thing I want to show you on this fight is that if you are fighting an enemy in this game and they are doing an attack pattern, by the way, I've got him targeted, I'm just strafing around him, and I'm just pushing B to like jump out of the way. If they start attacking and you are already in your attack pattern, you cannot block to interrupt. The game is really bad. You are very slow. And so you need to make sure you're blocking at the right time and not overcommit yourself with attacks, or you will get crushed by guys like this. Now, let's say I wanted to use my Fable Art against this dude. I'm just going to hold left bumper and push Y. And then now you see I charge up a little bit. I have a little bit of extra juice on my attack. But you see how I reached in there. I attacked and I immediately tried to block. But this guy was like, no thank you. You're not going to block my attack because you're already in your attack motion. Even right there. It was so telegraphed. I attacked, but I tried to block. And you can't get your sword up in time to parry. So you kind of have to, at least me personally, coming from Souls games, I've had to really rethink how I block in this game and how I deal with enemies, because that guy, like, the regular enemies you could stagger with your basic attack, so it's not a big deal, but that guy is not impressed, so we're going to need to figure something else out to beat him, and I'll show you. Main thing is, we want to get back to that guy and kill him before we take any damage. Luckily, we opened the shortcut. So if I hold B and I run, I've got all 3 charges of my pulse cell, and the shortcut is right here. Now, I do have to fight this guy before I go in. I can't avoid that. But I can hold R2 and do my special attack and kill him. And then there's that guy. Now, before we fight him, take a look in this room. You see that shining blue beacon? That is where my ergo is. In the upper right, you can see that below my ergo, I have 141, which I've collected this run. But it says 611. That's how many I can regain by that blue butterfly if I go back over here and pick this up. So now I've gotten my ergo back. And you notice how in the upper right, it's my ergo is in blue, 752. It's in blue like that because I have enough to actually level up. Now, we can't level up at this point in the game. You have to beat this guy before you get the capability to level up. However, this is like the first kind of tutorial boss. It's not even really a boss. It's just a hard enemy. And you can, we start so close to it that it's not that much threat to get back here. But this guy still is difficult. I think I died a few times before I learned this, so do not be discouraged at all if you die on this. This is how these games work. You're going to get owned by enemies until you figure them out. So let's try to figure this guy out. I'm going to move in, and he sees me. I'm going to use one of my Fable. I'm going to block, hit. Okay, I'm going to hit. Block, hit, block, hit, block, hit, take damage, back away. So what I'm doing is just getting one hit at a time in. Now that's his 3-attack chain. Here we go. Now, that's what you're trying to do on that guy. I took some damage. It wasn't perfect. But what you have to do is just take what he gives you. You cannot get greedy and run and hack and slash like you can on the regular enemies. You block, and then if you have an opening, you do a quick attack. That's what I like to do. But some of his attacks are not just one swing of his baton. He's going to do a chain. Or he might do it like a 2 or a 3 chain. So you need to kind of learn the timing, block through all of it, just take the damage, it stinks, you got to take it, and then hit him when he's open. Once you get these kind of bigger enemies down enough health, they will become vulnerable to a stagger. Now, you saw how he kind of shook back. What I did was I held R2 and I did my special attack. If you're fighting a boss or any enemy, they will outline in white and their health bar will outline in white when they are open for staggering. And then you can do you have to hold down R2 and do a charged special attack while they're vulnerable to it. And if you do, they will then completely stagger and be ready for a fatal attack, just like an unaware enemy. You're going to get those 3 orange kind of diagonal stripes, and you can just own this guy. So we're just going to walk up to him and hold down right bumper and obliterate him. So the way that you beat that guy is not by dodging his attacks necessarily, although you could do it that way. You could just try to like dodge and everything like that, and instead of blocking, dodge out of the way and hit when you have an opening. That's fine. I prefer blocking, but dodging, if that's your play style, that's great. Either way, you just have to chip these guys away enough until they become available to stagger. So it's about just trying to survive until that point and getting in the damage when you can. Because you see, if I'm just trying to interrupt that guy with my attacks, normally it does not work. So I have had to weaken him, but that time, you see how much easier it was? I actually used no consumables. I didn't do anything. I used my Fable Art. I'll show you again. Just hold left bumper and push Y. And you see how like my arm is flaming. I just had a temporary boost on my hit points. Or I'm sorry, the damage that I'm doing. Temporary boost on my damage. And the reason I did that was so that I could weaken that guy faster. But you can't get greedy. This only lasts for a certain amount of time. It's already gone. You see, it's passed. You reclaim Fable just by hitting the guy, so you earn it by fighting him. But I did that so that with a few hits that I did get, they just did a little extra oomph, and we could take that guy. You could have thrown, the fire kind of grenade thing at him to do some extra damage if you wanted as well, if this guy's really hard. But just block him, don't do anything fancy, and you'll beat him just like that. Now, don't be discouraged if it takes you more than one try. I think it took me 3 tries my first time, because a lot of my instincts and timing from Dark Souls games were off in this game. And I had to kind of relearn some things. Now I'm going to go pick this up, and I get another sawtoothed wheel, which is a garbage item. But we got some good items. What did we get? First of all, look in the upper right. We got a bunch of ergo. We have 2,300. Then if I go into my bag and I look at what I picked up, nothing here that we got. All right, let's go over here. But look at this. We got a new frame. So items that are new that you pick up have a badge in the upper right corner that's blue to indicate that it's new. And this, you could see this is like your armor, basically. This little ring, this frame thing. And the armor that I started with, the Workshop Union Basic Frame, it has 7.36 physical damage reduction rate. This has way more physical damage reduction rate, 11.6, which is amazing. However, it weighs more. So if I equip this in the upper right, you will see... oh, you can't equip it from this screen, sorry. You can move to equipment. If I click A and I move to equipment, it'll take me to the right screen for equipping stuff, and then I go click on this, and then I make the change. This is actually a better screen for doing it because, well, it's the only screen you can actually change, but if you're looking at your gear, it gives you the side-by-side comparison. My weight will go up 1.8, and my damage reduction will go up 4.25. That is fine. 50% encumbrance does not impact me, so I am okay with this. This just allows me to take more damage. But the reason I was on the bag screen was because I wanted to cycle through. Sometimes I don't know where the items that I pick up go, so I have to look through every slot in my bag to find them. And what we got, here's your emotes and stuff. We got this key. So this will open a door that we couldn't have got through before, and we got that armor from that dude. All right, fantastic. And let's see, what can we open with this key? Not this door. This door? No. Ah, I know which door. So sometimes what you have to do in this game is just explore, wander around. There is still an enemy out here, so we got to take this guy out. But it's right up here. We'll show you. I wanted to do a special attack on that guy, but he was not having it. He became aware of me. I'm going to heal myself just so I don't die. All right. And now, this is the way that we went before, to the right. But if we come up here, this is where you use that key. So you got to explore, you got to look around. The game, again, it's not like... Even Elden Ring will sometimes give you objectives. This game does not show you everywhere that you need to go. You have to explore. There is no map. Now, this is really cool, though. I'm just going to be careful, though, as I go here. There's some enemies lying around in the central station, but look at this, like, purple sparkly right here. This is a stargazer. I called it the Seer. I call it mostly Campfire, to be honest, because that's what I get from Souls games. But this is the Stargazer. The Stargazer is the device that you need to level up. So you can use this to fully recover your hit points, your stamina, and all of your pulse cells, your healing. But when you use this, all of the enemies will get revived in the area. So it revives you and your enemies. If you use it when you're still alive, it just refills you, and you can use it to level up, at least right now you can. But if you die, this is where you will come back to, the most recent one of these that you've interacted with. Now, I'm going to try to use it right now.
This is called a Stargazer. A marvelous device the Stalkers used in the past.
Puppet threshold exceeds danger estimates. Please reduce puppet numbers or reset danger parameters.
As we are not strong enough to beat the puppets. But if I lend my power to this Stargazer for a moment. Gather ergo, clever one. This Stargazer will make you stronger. But the Stargazer's strength doesn't last forever, so be careful with it. Hurry up and come to Hotel Krat.
Okay, awesome. So now she's explained what this does, and I don't really use the storage too much right now because I don't have enough stuff to worry about that, but I'm going to go to level up. This is what we want to do. So once you get to the level up screen, if you've played a Souls game, you're going to be intimately familiar with this. But if you haven't, what this means is you can pick any of your stats, your starting stats, and boost them. And if you raise, like your vitality, for example, over in the right panels, in the center column and the right column, it's going to tell you what is being improved if you level this up. So if I boost vitality, hit points, guard regain, defensive, physical, fire, electric, and acid resistance rates will all be impacted if I boost vitality. And if I actually push right on the directional pad to raise vitality up 1, which is indicated from 9 to 10, you see how the numbers 10 are teal now, then it will show you in the right the increase, the boost. So my hit points will go from 283 to 304, my guard regain goes up by 5, and my defense raises. If I instead raise vigor, I get more stamina. If I raise capacity, I can, my Legion arm gets more capacity, but also my weight goes up, so I can equip like heavier armor and weapons. If I increase motivity, I will do more damage. In the upper right, you see my physical attack goes up. Technique also boosts my physical attack. In this case, with this weapon, I suppose, or just in this case. And then advance will boost up my Legion and some of my other defensive rates. Now for me, what am I interested in? Vitality all day long. I think as a new player, one of the number one things you want is to have a lot of hit points, because it will let you stay in the fight longer, so you can learn the enemies and then beat them, get your hit points back with guard regain. Of course, it's important to deal damage, but I just like having a ton of health. So for me, for this build, my priorities are vitality first, motivity second, and then vigor and capacity at your leisure, like in terms of they're both good. Like you need stamina so you can block more, swing your sword more, all that stuff. Capacity so you can have heavier armor and things without getting slowed down. But notice how right now, if I want to level up my vitality, in the bottom left it says it requires 720 ergo to do that, and I have 2428 ergo. If I level up, every time you level up, the next cost of a stat increase is more expensive, so it gets more costly regardless of which stat you increase. It will always raise because it's talking about your overall level. That's what it's using to determine how expensive it is to raise things. So I'm going to boost vitality once and get a bunch of hit points. I'm going to boost it again and get even more hit points, and then I'm going to boost motivity so I can do a little bit more damage. Now this will take me all the way down to 167 remaining ergo, and I will not be able to level up anymore. But now you can see the completed result of me leveling up all of this. So once you're done kind of inputting your stats however you like, you could see what the results will be, and it reflects everything, the vitality, the motivity, or whatever you raise. I'm going to get 40 more hit points, 10 more guard regain, 2 more physical damage, and 3 more damage on my Legion arm, as long as more defense against physical, fire, electric, and acid. So I love this. Now, you could do whatever you want. If you want to go all motivity, go for it. You know, whatever you're interested in. I just think having hit points is super important for a new player. So I'm going to say, okay. And now I've leveled up. You see how in the upper left, there's a heart with like a gear? And it was at 10. I was at 10th level. Now I'm at 13th level. Basically what that means is I've leveled up a stat that many times. And I started at 10th because whatever build you pick has already given you some boost. So now I'm ready to go. It's going to cost 824 ergo to level something up. But I'm much stronger than I was before. And I always like to level up because now if I die and I were to lose all my ergo, no problem. I only have 167. But if I would have died and lost my 2,000, I would have been, pretty sad about that. So at any time I can use the Stargazer now to kind of reset the enemies. I'll show you. This dude right over here. Alright, I kill him. He gives me 47 ergo. He's down on the ground right there. If I use the Stargazer, even if I don't level up, he's back. He's right over there. But the cool thing is I can do this to farm experience. If the game ever gets too hard for you, just stay in an area and kill a bunch of weak enemies to level yourself up. And you will just, by virtue of that, raise your defense and usually your hit points and stuff so that you can last longer. Alright everybody, I think this is a good first look at this game in this guide. This is going to be a series, so we're going to do more of the game and show more of the content in the subsequent episodes for as long as you guys find this to be useful and interesting. Please post any questions you have about the game in the comments below. If you have any tips that are non-spoilery and not overwhelming, meant for new players, people who have never played the game before, you can leave those in the comments below as well. I'd appreciate that. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're finding this to be useful and fun, and I'll check you in the next episode of the Lies of P Guide for Complete Beginners series. Thanks so much. Take care.